Today I'm going to show you how to crochet the Crochet-in-a-Day V-stitch market bag. Really simple pattern. You can kind of adjust it depending on how tall you want it, or by using a different size crochet hook. For this project I'm just using some scrap yarn, 4-weight cotton yarn that I have, a 5.5mm crochet hook, but again you can kind of adjust the size to fit your needs by sizing up or sizing down your crochet hook. So I have just grabbed some stash yarn, cotton yarn from my stash. I've got two different colors, this variegated purple, which is a sugar and cream, and then I've got just a solid sort of tealish blue to put with that. You can use whatever cotton yarn you have in your stash. You're going to need, if you're using the sugar and cream, you're going to need 3.5 to 4 balls of this. It has 95 yards in it, so you probably need at least 320 yards, which is why I say 4 balls of this. But if you have a whole bunch of just random colors in your stash, this is a perfect project just to use up some of those random cotton yarn colors. I am going to start with the variegated that I have here, and we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to create the bottom panel. To create that bottom panel, we're going to chain 13, so we've got a chain of 13. We're going to work a single crochet back into each of those chains. So at the end of this row you will have 12 total stitches. We're just working a single crochet into each stitch. So you should have something that looks like this after you've worked your 12 single crochets. We're going to chain 1, and this is what we're going to be doing for the next 25 rows. Chain 1, turn into that same stitch that we just chained out of. We're going to be working a half double crochet stitch. So yarn over, pull through all 3, into the next a half double crochet, so yarn over into the next stitch, work a half double crochet, do the same into each stitch all the way across, 1 half double crochet. At the end of this row you'll have 12 stitches, so we're not increasing or decreasing at all. We are just working rows of half double crochet. So at the end of that row you'll have something like this. You're going to continue and repeat that half double crochet row a total of 25 times. So you have 25 rows of half double crochet, 1 row of that single crochet, so you'll have 26 total rows when I meet you back at the top, and this will create our long panel for the bottom of our bag. So always chain 1, turn, and work into the same stitch a half double crochet and a half double crochet into every stitch all the way back for a total of 25 rows. Once you've worked those 25 rows of half double crochet, we're going to work one more row in single crochet. So chain 1, turn, and again into that first chain or stitch, just work your single crochet, and into the next, and all the way across we're just working 1 single crochet. You're always going to have 12 total stitches for this bottom panel. Now at this point I'm going to change to my second color. If you are not changing colors, don't do anything, but I'm going to go ahead and fasten off and just reattach this new color right here where I've left off. So to work that single crochet all the way around, I'm just going to start with a chain 1, and I'm going to work a single crochet right back into that same stitch. So because I've changed colors, it's a little bit more difficult, but if you're working with the same yarn and you don't change colors, just work a chain 1 and single crochet right back into that last stitch. Now I'm going to work a single crochet all the way around. So just find a spot, and like I said, you want to try to make sure that it is a multiple of 3, all of these single crochets working around. So I'm going to go ahead and work this all the way around. When I get to a corner, I'm just working 1 single crochet, no increasing, so literally just a single crochet evenly spaced all the way around. I have worked a single crochet all the way around. I am just going to slip stitch into my first single crochet from this kind of border round. This single crochet will just give a nice foundation to start working that V-stitch pattern that we're going to be working all the way around. I did not count my single crochets, so I don't know if I have a multiple of 3. If I do, it should work out perfectly. If I don't, we're going to make it work. We're going to start with a chain 4, and that chain 4 counts as a double crochet chain 1. Right back into that same stitch that we just worked out of, we're going to work a double crochet. So that counts as your first V-stitch. Chain 4, double crochet in the same. We're going to skip 2 stitches into the next, work a V-stitch. So a V-stitch is double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet right back into the same stitch. And we are going to work that all the way around. So skip 2, V-stitch in the next. And that's why I say it's nice to have a multiple of 3 as you're working that single crochet round before this V-stitch round. Skip 2, V-stitch in the next, because it'll work out a little bit easier for you, but it is not a deal breaker. So if you don't have that multiple of 3 going around, we will just make it work when we get back here. So skip 2, V-stitch in the next. V-stitch is always a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet right back into that same stitch. And then you skip the next 2 and V-stitch into the next. So I'm going to keep working this all the way around, and we will see how close to a multiple of 3 that I am when we get back here. I've worked that V-stitch all the way around. Doesn't look like much yet, but it will start to grow the more rows we put on. I have 2 stitches left, which means skip 2, and here is where I started. I am not going to join. I am going to work a V-stitch directly in this V-stitch from the previous row. So a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. It will give you a little bit of a larger space right here, but in the grand scheme of things, it will not be super noticeable. I also like that because it indicates where I have started. Here is where I started, in that little bit larger space in that first V-stitch round. So this becomes helpful after you work a number of V-stitch rows. You know where to finish your last row at. You can also grab a stitch marker and just put a stitch marker right here. That will also help you realize, don't go around and don't end here, because you'll have a different number of row count on each side. So you want to finish your last V-stitch row right here where we started. So we've just worked our V-stitch into that first V-stitch. We're going to just work V-stitches all the way around. We skip that next space, and we're going to work our V-stitch in the chain 1 space of our previous row's V-stitches. So just work your V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip that next space, find that chain 1 space of your V-stitch and work a V-stitch into it. So this works up really quickly because now we're just working into spaces and we're just working that V-stitch pattern all the way around into the chain 1 spaces. When you get back here, here's where we started this second round, we're not going to join. You're just going to keep working all the way around into the chain 1 spaces. So it becomes kind of mindless and super easy project and pattern to do if you're just watching TV or chatting with somebody. Doesn't take a lot of mind power to work this stitch. So I'm going to keep working that all the way around for a number of rows, and when I come back I will tell you how many rows that I worked of that V-stitch. You can customize it for as tall as of a bag as you want or as short of a bag as you want. This is super customizable. Once we work our V-stitch to get the height of the bag that we want, we're going to work a nice border and some handles. I've worked 15 rows of the V-stitch. I have put in a stitch marker where the start of my round is. At this point I'm going to look for the V-stitch that is directly to the right of my stitch marker, and I'm going to follow it all the way up, V-stitch, 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 all the way up. And into that last V-stitch I'm going to work one more V-stitch just to finish this round. And then into the next V-stitch I'm just going to slip stitch to join. Now I'm going to change colors, so I'm going to fasten off this color. If you're not changing colors, stick with me, I'll be right back. I'm going to chain 1 and into that same space, so that same V-stitch, I'm just going to work a half double crochet. So yarn over, pull back through 3. We are going to be working half double crochets into each space. So the spaces in between the V-stitches as well as those chain 1 spaces. Every space gets a half double crochet. Into the V-stitch space, half double crochet, into the very next space, half double crochet, V-stitch space. So every space work a half double crochet all the way around. I am back around. Here is where I started. If you've used the same color and it's hard for you to tell where that starting half double crochet round was, just put a stitch marker right in that spot and you'll be able to tell where to join the round. So I'm just going to join with a slip stitch, and now we can start to create the handles. To create the handles, I like to lay the bag out flat, make sure it is lined up evenly, so straight, flat. I'm going to just kind of roll it up down here so you can see what I'm doing up here. You're going to need some stitch markers, so I've got some stitch markers here. You're going to want to decide how large of that handle space that you want. So I like to just kind of count over, make sure I have an even amount on both sides, and then I will place a stitch marker through the stitch where I want to start the handle. So I'm just going to count over so many stitches from both ends, and once I have the same amount of stitches on both ends and I've placed my stitch markers, we can continue working around. Now I also like to place them through both front and back panels of the bag, so then I know where as I'm working around to start the handle on the opposite side. So I'm going to go ahead, place my stitch markers, kind of play around with it and see what I like, and then we will work the rest of the rows. And if you notice, we are not directly in the corner. So here's where I've left off on this stitch. I'm still going to start counting from that corner though. It just means I'll have fewer stitches to work right here than I will have going around this side. But it evens out because we'll work all the way around coming from the other side. Hopefully that made sense. I'm going to place my stitch markers. So I've counted over 10 from that very first stitch on the end. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Once I have those placed, I'm going to count the number of stitches in the middle here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 9 stitches in between my 2 stitch markers. Next, I'm going to flip this on this side and just make sure that I've got the even number of stitches on the back side. Once I figure that out, I'm going to include that stitch on this stitch marker here to keep myself on track. Same thing on this side. Make sure that I've got 9 stitches in between the stitch markers on the opposite side of my bag. So I did some trial and error. I actually increased the number of stitches between my stitch markers by 1. So now I have 10 on this side in between the stitch markers and 10 on the other side. You can see I've marked both stitches. Now you can also do this, just add 2 more stitch markers and put them on the other side if you don't like having them together like this. The handle rows are also half double crochet rows. So I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to work a half double crochet in the same stitch. I'm going to work a half double crochet into each stitch until I hit my stitch marker. So I'm at my stitch marker now. What I'm going to do is take it out of that first front panel stitch and just leave it on the back panel so I know where to go, how far to go on that other side. I'm going to work into that stitch that had my stitch marker, and now I'm going to chain 12. So you can play around with how many chains that you feel you need to create that handle. I'm going to work 12. I have 10 stitches in between stitch markers. I'm going to add 2 stitches just to give it a little bit more of a open handle. So chain 12. Once you have your chain, you're going to find the stitch where your stitch marker is. Again, I'm going to take it out of that front one, keep it in the back one, and work a half double crochet into that stitch where we just removed our stitch marker. And sometimes those chains can get twisted around, and that will be our handle right there. So I'm going to work a half double crochet around this corner of my bag until I get to my next stitch marker back there. So a half double crochet into each of those stitches. I am now back around where this stitch marker is. You can just open it up, take it out, don't need it anymore. I'm going to work a half double crochet into that stitch that we just removed our stitch marker from, chain 12, jump to the next stitch marker, take that out, toss it aside, and into that stitch where we just took our stitch marker out, work a half double crochet. And now we have our other handle. We're going to work around until we get to the start of the round. Half double crochet into each stitch. As you come around, just continue working those half double crochets. Here's where we started. Now I am going to work a half double crochet into that stitch just so I don't have a gap, but that is completely up to you. Into that first half double crochet, we're going to join the round with a slip stitch, and now we can work 2 or 3 half double crochet rows all the way around. You are going to work into the chains at the top here for your handles. So I'm going to chain 1, half double crochet in the same, half double crochet in the next, continuing on with half double crochet stitches into each stitch all the way around. At the end of the rounds you will join with a slip stitch to the top of our first half double crochet. When you get to the chain for your handle, work a half double crochet carefully into each chain. And that will give it some sturdiness by working into the actual chain and not around the chain. So I've worked those half double crochets around the chain, or into each chain I should say. Down here there's a stitch, so I'm going to work half double crochet, continuing around into each stitch all the way until I get to my next chain. And when I get to the next chain back here, just do what we did here and work those half double crochets into each chain. You're going to join with a slip stitch, chain 1, half double crochet in the same, and work another half double crochet row all the way around. You can do this for 2 more rows, 3 more rows. Sometimes it just depends on how much yarn you're working with. You also may want a thicker handle at the top here, so it's completely customizable. You can work as many additional half double crochet rows on top of this row that we're on right now. I am back around and I worked 3 total half double crochets after we created that handle, and that gives you a nice strip above that handle to carry your bag. I'm going to go ahead, fasten off, weave in my ends, and you've got the Crochet-in-a-Day V-Stitch market bag. Super easy pattern, works up really quickly. The only tricky part is working that first row of your V-stitch pattern. If you don't have a multiple of 3, you're going to have to make it work either by adding in an extra V-stitch, or you'll just have a slightly bigger space. As you can see, I've got just a slightly bigger space right there. Other than that, a super easy pattern, works up really quickly. You can make this typically in a day. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Until next time, happy crocheting. Bye.